Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters and viewers of Iqra TV, welcome to another edition of Real Talk. Last week when we joined you, we spoke about the election. We said we were 1 week away from the election and we wanted to do a special event to mark the importance of this particular election, in particular for the Muslim community, with everything that has been happening over the last few weeks. And last week I had two very honored guests with me, one of whom was very familiar to viewers of Iqra TV. He's back, I'm glad to say, Ishtiaq Ahmed. And I also had Naheed with me last week, and she's also joined me again today. And I'm also joined with two other guests today, both of you will have seen on Iqra TV. One is a very familiar face. He is Mr. Iqra TV in the north, and that is Mufti Yusuf Akuri. And the other is Naheed Shaher, Inayat Shaher, who was with me a few weeks ago talking about the Bradford for Better for Bradford initiative that she runs in this town. And everybody who saw that program was very sort of empowered by what she was doing. But today's program, tomorrow is the election day. Tomorrow is a vital day in the history of this country. As we said last week, the decisions that people will make tomorrow will have huge implications for the whole of the country and every citizen in this country as well. Now, we have seen what's happened in the last few years, particularly over the last few weeks, around Muslims and Islamophobia. We have seen other faith communities actually going out there very proactively campaigning for particular parties, specifically around the issue of Islamophobia and around the issue of anti-Semitism. And we touched on that last week a little bit. But tomorrow everybody is going to be going out. Inshallah, everyone will be going out and voting. And we urged last week to make sure that every Muslim in this country will go out and exercise the democratic process and vote. And the Maulana who was with us last week, Maulana Hayat, made it very, very clear, and he gave clear evidence from the Quran and the Hadith that it is incumbent on every Muslim to go out and vote. So we want to discuss that today, because tomorrow, if you're still unsure about what you need to do, who to vote for, we cannot tell you who to vote for. My guests may be able to share their personal thoughts about which party that they support. But as I urge every one of you to go out and vote, we have seen the Hindu community come out very strongly condemning the Labour Party simply because the Labour Party had supported the people of Kashmir at one stage. We have seen the Jewish community come out very strongly and criticize the Labour Party on the issue of anti-Semitism. Although, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, not the opinion of the Iqra TV, there's a conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. People are anti-Zionist. I'm an anti-Zionist, but I'm not an anti-Semite. I have some very good Jewish friends, and I love them and I support them. But I'm not in touch with those who are Zionists out and out. And I think what people have done is use the anti-Zionism label to hammer members of the Labour Party who are anti-Zionist and make them out into anti-Semitic. So we want to discuss some of these issues. And as I say, I'm really honored today to have two of my previous guests from last week, both Ishtiaq and Naheed, and I have two other guests today, and we'll be hopefully, inshallah, having some more people joining us on this program. It's a special event, a one-off 2-hour show of Real Talk. And I'd love to have you ring in and tell us and share with us your thoughts as well. The phone number is 01274 214 299. It will be coming up on your screen throughout the program. So let's start this program by asking our Mufti Sahab again, just to clarify the position of Islam on the issue of voting. Mufti Sahab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, welcome to Iqra TV and Real Talk, which used to be your program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, viewers and brothers and sisters, welcome. And like Iqbal Bhai said, it is a one-off program. It's important. It's, I would say, it's incumbent and it's necessary, compulsory for us all to vote. And Maulana Hayat covered this topic closely with a fine-tooth comb, I would say. However, there's the social media messages going around from various imams, various schools of thought, all urging you all to vote. Vote however you feel and deem. Tomorrow on Yawm al-Qiyamah, as the hadith of our beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam goes, كلكم مسؤول وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. So we are all responsible. We are all shepherds, and we are responsible for our flocks. How we vote, what happens tomorrow, how policies, laws, legislations change, whether it's related to faith, whether it's social, societal, private issues, it doesn't matter. We have a right, let's vote. And on that topic, I think I'll just close at that, unless some of our viewers have something to say. Like Iqbal Bhai said, the numbers on the bottom of your screen, do call in if you want to differ, want to have a disagreement in terms of whether voting is halal or haram. I would say it's compulsory right now in this climate for all of us. And if you're not voting tomorrow, then, or if you don't vote tomorrow, you've done not just yourself, not just your children, not just your neighbors, your whole society, you've let them down. So get out and vote tactically, inshallah.
Thank you, Mufti Sahib. I mean, as you say, it was very clear from Maulana Hayat's position last week. Ishtiyaq reminded me earlier that he was absolutely clear that we have to go out and vote. We are going through some very challenging times. The Chinese proverb goes, may you live in interesting times.
It's a
and
curse.
some say it's a curse and some say it's a blessing. We are going through some very challenging times, particularly the Muslim community. We are being hit from left, right and centre. And there are, as we've seen Islamophobia in the last 3 years, ever since the referendum, we've seen a huge spike in attacks on Muslims, particularly Muslim women who wear the hijab and the niqab. You know, they don't feel safe in some communities because of this rise of the extreme right. And we've seen some of the political parties, and I've got a leaflet from somebody who sent it to me from the Brexit Party. There's a leaflet that's come out from a Conservative candidate who's made some extremely derogatory and racist remarks about Muslims in this community. And yet these people have not been sanctioned by the Conservative Party themselves or the Brexit Party, although the Brexit Party yesterday said that they suspended 2 people who had been brought to their attention. Similarly, we have some independent standing, for example, in my neck of the woods, and people who surround that particular individual has actually made comments to the effect that we need to ethnically cleanse the area where we are from Muslims because of, you know, all sorts of issues. So this election is going to be absolutely vital, not just for the country, not just for the people of this country, but specifically for the Muslim community. If the wrong person gets in or the wrong party gets in, the impact of that could be absolutely huge on us and our children and our children's children, and on our faith. The masjids and the masajid and the madrasas that we have could be under threat from all sorts of quarters. So we want to discuss this. Inaya, let me bring you in. Inaya, obviously, some of you will remember, as I say, she was on my program a few weeks ago, and I was really grateful that she came along. I mean, obviously, you are a very active member of the Bradford community, and you know you've done some sterling work in this area. I mean, you are, you know, I've described you as a leader, and you've said, no, I'm not a leader. But in my view, you still are, because to set up something like what you have set up, where you have, was it 2,000 followers now, or members of your on the WhatsApp group?
Well, at the moment with our WhatsApp group, we've got about 1,600
Right,
followers.
1,600 people.
So we've got 8 different groups across Bradford.
Yeah, and you started this whole thing off. So you are a leader in my view.
It's teamwork. I can't take
I'm
all
sure
the
it is.
credits.
I'm sure it is. But I mean,
There's
somebody has
Naheed,
to.
there's
Somebody
so
has
many
to
of us.
start it off, and you know,
Yeah.
you were the one who started off. I mean, you have the pulse mostly of the people of Bradford. How do you feel that they, you know, what is your opinion about? Are they engaged in politics? Are they involved in politics? Are they sort of do they understand the importance of tomorrow?
Well, I'd just like to go back to how we used to vote when we were younger. For example, my parents, I mean, though we're talking about the 70s, it was so important for us to vote. My father stressed that we all, you know, my mother, the family, the masjids, and even though we didn't have the great transport service that we have today, we had to take a taxi. We
Right.
had to take the bus, but we still made the effort to vote. Now we're living in 2019. The polling stations are just down the road, so there should be no reason or no excuse for us not to vote. It's just a walking distance away, and it's been made so easy for us. So I would urge everyone to vote and not and to avoid making any excuses. There should be no excuses made tomorrow. If you have the right to vote, you should vote.
Right.
And it's going to make a massive difference. I mean, look at the state that we're living in today. Our NHS, it has been affected extremely. We're losing our NHS, the most important part of our services, one of our services. Also, the educational system, it's been badly affected. We can ask Naheed shortly about what's happening there. But there's so many things, the housing, our housing has been affected. Economy, we're seeing more poverty now, so many people on the streets. I mean, my grandkids are saving money to give to the poor because people are on the streets everywhere in the city centre.
And you think this has happened as a result of austerity, the austerity program?
I mean, I've never seen homelessness as spiralling as it is. It's happening today. And that's the reason why we started as a group, because we felt affected. It was disheartening to see so many, so many bad things happening within our community, and that's the reason why we wanted to. We started Bradford for Better. We thought we could make a difference and also hold our councillors accountable. We vote them in, but then we forget that they're there, and we forget that they are accountable for some of the things that are happening.
You mentioned health, you mentioned education, you mentioned housing, social ills, etc. Those are some of the important issues for you.
Yes.
Do you feel there's any particular party out there? There's the Conservatives, there's the Labour Party, Liberal Party, Brexit Party. There'll be some independents as well, etc. Do you think there's any particular party that you feel has a better solution for some of these issues compared to the others?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, it's a person's choice. And also what affects that person. For me, the NHS is most valuable service that's available to everyone.
Yes.
And if someone cares about something, whether it's the NHS, whether it's education, whether it's economy, they should vote, and they should vote for the right party. Not vote because your next door neighbour's voting for someone that they believe in. They should vote for something that they believe in, and a party that will make a change and make a difference.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a way. I mean, Ishtiaq, obviously, as my viewers will know, a man for whom I have a great deal of respect, a man who's been at the forefront of the campaign for social justice and equality and human rights in this area. As I said last week, not just locally, nationally, but also internationally. And he has been at the forefront of making sure that people get what they really deserve from those institutions who are there to provide services for them. Ishtiaq, I mean, you are also in a position of being the chief executive or the chief operating officer, or I'm not, whatever title, I'm not sure the exact title you have, of the Council of Mosque from Bradford. And the institution has been running for over 25 years, which brings all sort of Islamic communities together. Now, as a person, how important do you think this particular election is from all the previous elections that we've had in this country? Or is it still the same?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A couple of points. One is that I think it's important, as Anaya has said, and Mufti Sahib has said, that we must go and exercise our democratic right tomorrow.
Right.
As an individual, I can't actually sit on the fence and allow other people to get into the government of this country and then make decisions that will affect me, my children, my grandchildren, and my community.
Yeah.
Okay, by sitting on the fence and not going out to vote, I would be actually not fulfilling my responsibility and my obligations as a citizen of a country which has now become my home. I think so. It's important that we go out and vote. Okay, in terms of this election, I think these elections are extremely important. Whoever gets into the government will have next 4 to 5 years to actually make decisions that will directly impact on me and the community I live in, and my children and my grandchildren and my quality of life. Okay, whether it is to do with NHS, whether it's to do with education, whether it is to do with employment, whether it's to do with opportunities for our children. So I think it's about us being involved and saying, we are not going to sit on the fence. We are not going to be sidelined. We want to be there as in the in the central arena to make sure that we actually determine and guide and direct how this country is going to move forward. So it's very important for us.
Right.
Okay, I have looked at the manifestos
Mm.
of all parties, and I have closely followed all the debates which the leaders of all political parties, and I have to say that having lived with the conservative government for almost for the last 10 years, 10 years, I don't think that they have anything to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm being as blunt as that. I don't think they have anything to offer. I think it's important that we look at other political parties,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and see what they have to offer.
Okay.
Okay, people will have their own choices whether they are going to look at Liberal Democrats or whether they're going to look at the Labour Party or the Green Party. There are other real alternatives. Okay, so why should we blindly go on electing a government that has failed us for the 10 years? It does not make sense.
Okay, thank you very much on that. I mean, some very important points
Well done.
raised there by Ishtiaq, you know, because as he said, you know, this election is going to have an impact not just on us, not just on our community, but our children, our grandchildren as well. For those who want to follow this program, you can follow this program on YouTube after the program is finished, and you can follow it on Twitter, and you can watch it live on YouTube as well, I've been told, and you on Iqra.tv on Twitter as well. So, you know, anybody who wants to follow this, or, you know, please do so. But also, much more importantly, we want to hear your feedback. So please ring in. I've got a call coming in. So can we just take this call? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hello.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Can you tell me where you're from and what's your name, please?
Calling from Glasgow. Just sorry if I don't mention my name.
No, yeah, that's fine. No problem.
I just wanted to say, but the good thing about SNP, that they said that they're the only party that's not going to be spending billions on Trident.
Right.
So a lot of other people are going to spend on wars and more weapons or futuristic weapons, which is dangerous for anybody on earth. You don't want anyone to get killed. But see, some parties also, well, I'm not going to mention, but I think one party did, well, they're in charge just now, so I'll just mention it. They did spend money for banks to bail them out. So you hear things like that. So they do have a lot of money, but they do always spend it in the wrong places. Even if we do vote, which is a great thing to vote anyway, which I'm going to vote, but I'm not going to say who I'm going to vote for. But I'm just saying, personally, it's not going to make a dramatic change, because at the end of the day, they're still going to have the hierarchy that makes the decisions for them, and they're still going to go ahead with shenanigans that they always do. So that thing is never going to change. But then again, we still rely on God. God gives us everything, so I still
Inshallah.
rely on Allah. But I'm
Inshallah.
not saying that it's not a good thing to vote. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. And wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I mean, obviously, you know, there are people who are saying that money should not be spent on Trident. It's a nuclear deterrent, as some people will say. And when others have made these comments about not spending money on nuclear armament, they've been vilified for, you know, not protecting the country. But I mean, coming back to this issue of, you know, what you said, I mean, Naheed is sat here very patiently. You work in education,
Yes, I do.
obviously, right?
Yes.
And over the last 10 years, I don't know how long you worked, I don't want to know, you know, how
Many
long you worked there,
years.
but obviously, as you know, Inayat said, we've seen austerity over the last 10 years and its impact. How have you witnessed that in the education sector? I mean, we've heard lots of stories
Yeah.
of children coming into school having not had a proper meal. etc.
Absolutely. It's actually got worse as time has gone on. At the beginning, it wasn't so bad. We're talking about 10 years on before. I've been teaching for a long time, and I've seen a lot of changes. I used to love to teach before, but now it's getting more and more and more difficult for teachers as well as students. That I feel that it's not the right place for teachers anymore. It's so difficult because of the government's interference in education of what they can do, what they can't do, and the constant reviews and constant pressure on data and analysis, that we're having to forget about teaching and concentrate more on what we need to provide the government for, which is just data, majority of the time. And I feel that teaching at this moment of time is become extremely difficult. And I for myself, would like to see a change coming into the government policies and the rules and the curriculums, because right now I feel that it's not working. And for it to work, we need everybody to vote and get a change and make a change in this country and for ourselves, for our children, for our future. Because right now, for me, it's not working. And I'm on the verge of thinking, shall I stay in education? Shall I not stay in education? Because it's getting worse as time's going on.
So do you support the Labour Party's position where they're saying that if they come to power, they will remove some of these onuses on the reporting of progress of children, etc.?
Absolutely.
Meeting Ofsted targets, etc.
It's just because what they've made us do is just get Ofsted to put more pressure on us. And that pressure is affecting the teaching rather than anything else, because it's putting a backdrop to actually teaching. It's more towards showing reports, showing analysis, showing data, and rather than teaching itself.
And some study has come out which says that fact is actually keeping schools behind.
Absolutely is.
And not allowing them to progress.
It is, and I've seen it. I've seen it for myself from the many years I've been teaching, that schools' conditions have got worse and worse, and they've become more in debt, and because of the debt, they're budgeting. Because they're budgeting, they're getting rid of teachers, getting rid of even facilities, equipment, and we're just lacking on so much that, and we have to work double the amount of time and pressure that we have to do. It's just really difficult. Even for our children who've moved on into university, a lot of them are deciding not to because the atrocious fees of universities. They just say we don't want to go into debt. We don't want to live a life of debt. So they're going into other things like apprenticeships rather than universities, and it's just become really bad. And I would like to see that change in the government to move forward, because I think Labour was saying that they will reduce university fees.
I think they'll abolish it.
Yeah, which is brilliant.
Yeah, they'll be abolishing it.
People move into different countries just because of the university fees. They're just far too much at the moment.
I think some people are going to where our sisters just called from, Glasgow. Because Scotland is free, it's like the free medication as well. I mean, just a slight clarification on what the sister said. The bailout of the banks was done by a previous government, under the Labour government by Mr. Brown, but that was then carried forward into the current government as well. I mean, obviously these issues are very important to all of us, right? Because we've all got family and children, etc. I mean, Ishtiaq's point about the impact of the decision that people make tomorrow will have an impact over the next 4 or 5 years. That people who will be making decisions, we need to make sure that the people who make those decisions are the right people. So, I'm going to be blunt here and say, in your opinion, although we as a channel cannot endorse a particular party, and I forgot to mention the Green Party as well in my list of all the political parties standing for election, so let me correct that. In your opinion, is there a particular party that you feel meets your needs as well as the Islamic perspective that you have? Obviously you're a practicing Muslim, you have a Muslim family and Muslim background. So is there a particular party that you would want to favour?
Yes, well, I'll be blunt. I'm going to vote for the Labour Party.
Right. And why is that? What do you think that the Labour Party has to offer the
Well,
others
because, I'm a great follower of Jeremy Corbyn.
Right.
And he's a very down-to-earth person. He's genuine. I trust him. That's the most important thing. I believe what he says, and I know he will deliver what he says. I'd just like to touch upon the educational system. For example, my grandchildren, we've been trying to get every grandparent wants the best for their grandchildren, also their children. And my daughter's been, she was trying to find the right school for my grandchildren. And every school that she applied to, when she read the Ofsted, it was just they had such poor standards results. So we had to we had to decide to send my grandchildren to a private school because there's no school which is good enough in Bradford. The school which was one of the best is Dixon's Trinity, but there was no places available. So we decided to send my grandchildren, and now we're paying for their education. My daughter's working round the clock, both my son-in-law, and I believe that the Labour Party will be able to offer our children the best education that they need.
You mean state-funded education?
State-funded education, because at the moment, I'm sure it's well, in Bradford we have the poorest education.
We do. It's getting worse.
For children, and children are losing interest because the teachers are not able to provide for them fully because of all the paperwork that's involved. So I'm definitely voting for Labour. And
So if the
we're fed up
Labour
of what's
Party, let's say, the Labour Party comes in
Mhm.
and pumps millions of pounds into Bradford education system, and the standards change, would you then withdraw your grandchildren from a private school to send them to the state school?
We will do, because I mean it's like I says, both my son-in-law and my daughter.
I don't think, I mean, the change will happen so fast,
Yeah.
will it though,
No, I mean,
really,
it's going to
realistically?
take time, I
Yeah.
agree. It's going to
Yeah.
take time.
It
It
will,
took
yeah.
time to take it down to the drain. Now it's time to build up.
Yeah, but it is about the quality of education and equality of access to the education.
Yeah.
If the standards in government funded school were high, they were on the parity with the private education, and the education is free to those schools, then why wouldn't parent send their children
Yeah.
to those to state schools? What has happened is that the private education standard has been raised, and the government funded education setup has been schools have been allowed to decline. So there's a massive gap in terms of investment, in terms of equality, in terms of opportunities
Between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I think in terms of actually whether Labour Party will actually bring about that radical change, and I think the radical change will happen, but it will take time to undo almost 10-15 years of actually resources being taken out of education, out of health, out of other important areas, and having allowed our basic amenities and services to decline. It is going to take an enormous effort on part of any government that's going to affect that change. Okay, what I say is that in Bradford, and this is one of my concerns tomorrow, is in Bradford we got excellent 3 Labour candidates. I have a lot of differences of opinion with Naz and Imran Hussain and Judith and others, but they are, I think, excellent members of parliament. Particularly Naz and Imran have actually given a voice and visibility to Bradford, and have given a voice and visibility to our communities. And I think it would be very irresponsible of us not to go out to make sure that those our members of parliament are returned. Okay, now that is without being party political. Okay, I look at my community and say, where is my interest? My interest is with members of parliament who are there. Okay, I have gone to all our members of parliament for my community. They have responded. They have responded well. I have not always agreed with them, but they have actually responded, and they've given us. They've spoken up. They've spoken up at House of Commons. They have given a voice. They have came up with ideas. So I think it's important that those people actually have an opportunity. That's local level. But nationally, we have tried a political party for the last 10 years. For me, it has not worked. Okay, and it only makes sense that I look elsewhere.
If you look at nationally what's happened and what the Conservatives have done is divide and divide and divide and cuts and cuts and cuts. I mean, I'm not going to say who I'm going to vote for, but it's definitely not going to be the party that's in power right now.
Right. So, like Ishtiaq says, look at who offers the best alternative.
Yes.
I mean, Inaya has already made it very clear where she stands. Ishtiaq has said, he's going to, he wants the people to support the existing MPs because they've been very visible and they've given a voice to the people of this area, this community. And I think this is a decision that you have to make. You have to look within your own community, your own selves, look at who's representing you at the moment, and then make a decision. But make sure that decision is informed. And in the second part of this program, we're going to be going for a break. Second part of the program, we'll be talking about the Muslim organizations on a national level, like MEN, the Muslim Council of Britain and others, who have actually come out and said, these are our minimum requirements for all political parties to meet, and who they've suggested we should be looking at and we should be voting for. And we heard Maulana Hayat last week mention some of those sort of minimum standards that they had set. So inshallah, don't go away. We'll be back. I hope you found this program interesting so far. There's much more to discuss and debate. Inshallah, we'll be back with you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.